Now, Tourism Minister Patricia De Lille has made changes to the South African Tourism Board following the board's failure to respond to concerns she had about budget overruns. The board was appointed in February following cabinet approval. The minister has subsequently removed the board chair and deputy and appointed a new chair, Dr. Gregory Davids. To hear more about these changes, Minister De Lille joins us now. Minister, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. We understand that you've had a very busy afternoon, which went into the evening, a very important meeting that you were involved in a short while ago that we managed to pull you out of. Thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps talk a little bit before we touch on board matters about the crux of that meeting this evening.
Which meeting are you referring to?
I understand that some very imperative matters were discussed when just ahead of you joining us this evening, and perhaps if you may, Minister, just bring us into your confidence about the details of that meeting.
Yeah, but I wanted to know which meeting are you referring to? I mean, I've been in meetings the whole day.
Okay, I'll have to just read some of my messages and get back to you. But perhaps let's really get to the point of why we initially are speaking this evening. You have made some significant changes when it comes to the Tourism Board, really looking at the shake-up and the reasons behind those moves that you made, Minister. You were saying in your letter that you needed to be transparent to the public. Why did you feel it important to do so? I mean, you could have just carried on and really not given the public this information about the changes you're making and the reasons behind them.
Well, thank you, Paul, for the opportunity. First of all, in the interest of transparency and accountability, I made the information public. And secondly, I am accountable to Parliament, and the Portfolio Committee has also raised the same issue with me, not once, but twice. Based on the concerns of the Portfolio Committee, I wrote to the board chairperson to ask for an explanation for the excessive amount of meetings, over 54 meetings, since February this year, and the budget for board fees for the full financial year 24-25 is 1.44 million. And so far, the board fees has accrued to up to 900,000, meaning that for the rest of the year, they might run out of board fees. I wrote to the chairperson and the deputy chairperson. They did respond to me, but they did not reply to the concerns that I've raised with them. I am also launching a full-scale investigation to look at what kind of matters were discussed in the subcommittees, in the full board meetings, because I have quarterly meetings with the board, where they report to me. Now, the Tourism Act says that the board must at least meet 4 times a year, and then or in case of any emergency. So once I've collated all of that information and look at why these meetings were called, I will then make that report public.
So is that why, as we ask questions about you raising these concerns about the excessive spending of the budget, that you didn't make the decision with immediate effect? I mean, you decided to have them remain ordinary board members when you could have perhaps, relieved them of their duties entirely. Is that your justification? You're trying to establish the facts first before you make any other drastic decision?
Yes, I have decided to keep them as members of the board, but not in positions of the chair and the deputy chair, because I want to be fair. I want to make sure that already the information that I have at my disposal, that over 900,000 is being accrued, I want to get a complete breakdown of why, first of all of these meetings were convened, what did they discuss, and so that they will still be in the board, when I go back to the board with the full report. But I've got about 90% of the information. There's still some information outstanding.
Would you say at this point that the trust has been broken when it comes to the two, and of course the manner in which the funds were handled and the lack of explanation? I mean, a response was given, but it's not good enough that your concerns were not addressed.
Yes, certainly. I am the stakeholder on behalf of ordinary South Africa. I'm the shareholder for government in the South African tourism as an entity. And therefore, I'm not representing myself there. I'm there because it is a public entity and the entity belongs to the public. That's why I'm transparent and releasing this information to the public. But I also, because I want fairness, I gave them a fair opportunity to respond. They failed to respond directly to the queries that I've raised. And that is why I took the decision to remove them from positions of authority, because it's the chairperson and the deputy chairperson that do have the powers to convene meetings and preside over those meetings. So I hope that by early next week, we will get this behind us. Mm-hmm. I have appointed Dr. Gregory Davids. He is an academic from the University of the Western Cape with a lot of governance experience, risk experience, and he will be also briefing me soon. And I'm also relying on his help that we collate and get all of this information together as soon as possible.
What led to your decision in appointing Dr. Davids?
Well, I had to look at what do I do in the interim to stop the excessive meetings and the excessive spend, because it's clear that out of the 1.4 million budgeted for board fees, so far it has accrued up to 900,000, that we need to bring a stop to that as soon as possible. The board must still continue to do its work. And of course, it's going to impact on the next 6 months of the board, where they might run out of funding. And Dr. Gregory Davids has got that governance experience. He served on other boards. He understands government, the Public Finance Management Act. And I've got full confidence that he is going to assist us to get to the bottom of it and to hold people accountable.
Yeah. With September being Tourism Month, Minister, a lot of the focus is aimed at promoting domestic travel, showcasing the country's diverse tourism offerings and highlighting the sector's significant contribution to the South African economy. What is the plan as we go into Tourism Month? I also ask you this, understanding that the Department of Home Affairs has also made a significant announcement talking about a visa system that's going to be implemented soon to allow more Chinese and Indian visitors to the country.
Oh, definitely. I'm very excited about that. I've been working closely with the Minister of Home Affairs, the Minister of State Security. We want to make sure that we can compete with Kenya, where, for instance, it takes you 4 or 5 days to get your visa. There are several internal technological and digital problems that Home Affairs is sorting out. And the President has now instructed that this must happen as soon as possible, because next month he must also attend a BRICS meeting. And by that time, we must be seen as South Africa to be inclusive, because 2 of the BRICS countries, Russia and Brazil, they already have a 90-day visa waiver. And there's no reason why we can't include India and China. And once we get the visa regime sorted out for India and China, I am very confident that we will see a substantial growth in our tourism arrivals. We're currently sitting at 8.5 million arrivals for last year. And of course, we set ourselves a target to reach 15 million by 2029. So this will certainly help for us to make it easier for Chinese and India visitors to come to our country.
Yeah, and the much needed jobs, Minister.
Yes,
Yeah.
On the domestic front, we're doing very well. We have also, because we are concerned about affordability and the cost of travel, and to make it easier for people to book tourism packages now, between the 2nd and the 8th, we have put about over 900 packages and a tourist establishment that offer discount up to 50% that people can book now and they can travel later. That is to deal with the affordability and the high cost of living. And so our domestic tourism is really the bedrock of our tourism sector.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very grateful for South Africans. It's our country. Let's go out there and enjoy our country.
Yeah. Well, we started off a bit shaky with me asking you the outcomes of a meeting. So now I've got the details. You were in a dinner with all political parties that are signatories of the Government of National Unity. And the purpose of that dinner was to provide an opportunity for a review of the functioning of the GNU so far. And of course, discussing details of the formulation of a dispute resolution mechanism. What is your reaction to the outcome of that meeting? Do you feel that there is some common ground and understanding, as the GNU is still a bit rusty, but of course, going in to show that there can be some changes in the country?
Yes, definitely. The future is in the hands of the Government of National Unity. We had a very informal meeting tonight, just to see how things are going, touching base with each other, sharing experiences, sharing the excitement of the country around the Government of National Unity, and just informally talking about how are we going to move forward, and agreed that as a way forward, we are going to put a structure together where we can take on all the other items that we have just sort of touched on tonight in a more formal way. So it was a good meeting with the President and the Deputy President, and we just had the 9 political party leaders there. I had to remind them I was the rose amongst the thorns there, that after 30 years of our democracy, I'm still the only woman party leader in Parliament. And I think there's a lot of hope. South Africans are putting their hope in the GNU, and we are confident with the leadership of all 10 parties that we're able to find each other. It's based on respect, as based on hope for our country, as making sure that our country succeed.
And of course, the dispute resolution mechanism will be highly imperative, more so at a time like this, when the Bella Bill is right at the forefront, directly perhaps violating the spirit of the joint statement of the GNU, as that in itself will lead to perhaps the next steps and the next tests of the formation of the GNU.
We have to learn as we go forward and as we implement. And certainly any issues, we're never going to agree on everything. Therefore, it's important to have a mechanism in place where we can discuss this before we even get to cabinet. And that is exactly what we will be doing going into the future, to make sure that, there need to be compromises. You can't get everything that you want all the time. And so we have to put our country first. And really, all the leaders that were there tonight, they shared their experiences, and they shared the response from their constituencies and just from people on the street. So I'm very hopeful that the Government of National Unity will continue to work together for the sake of South Africans.
Thank you so much. I'm tempted to call you Auntie Pat as we wrap up. Minister Patricia De Lille, thank you for joining us this evening.